Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Means we're brought to you by Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Tuesday. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and lots to do. Glen West in 30 minutes. LSU basketball wins last night. Colin Jeter, LSU Alumni Association, former Tiger tight end, with us at 2 o'clock. Sharif Ishak talking Saints at 2:30. Talk a little LSU Arkansas along the way as well. But unfortunately, this is not my favorite topic in the world. It's going to kick off the show, but it's got to happen. So let's do it with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
So Brian Kelly is suing LSU. By now, you're aware of this. I have spent my entire morning, the entire first part of my day, going through all of this. I have learned a lot, unfortunately. I don't like dealing with any of it, but it is a national news story and one that is not going away right now. So I'm going to lay all this out for you, and then there's an angle to this that I find most impactful, and I will get to that as I flesh out the story. But let's go back in time and put out some dates here, and I will tell you what has happened based on the legal filings and the conversations that we've had here over the last 5 hours. LSU got their butt kicked by Texas A&M on the 25th. On the 26th, Scott Woodward and some LSU administrators met with Brian Kelly, informed him that his time at LSU was over. Then, later that week, 3 days later, Jeff Landry was at that press conference for SNAP benefits and declared that Scott Woodward would not be hiring the next head coach, that the state was on the hook for a $53 million liability, and that hit the streets. Then you had Scott Woodward let go the next day. Mutual parting of ways, as it were, on a Thursday evening. The next day, Verge was put in place as the interim athletic director, and at that point, LSU had no president, no athletic director, no football coach. That was the 31st of October. You get President Roos appointed on the 4th, and he names Verge Osbury the acting athletic director. And then the next day says, well, couldn't make that decision 4 hours into the job, but we'll make that decision down the road. And then you see Verge Osbury 2 days later on the field with the president. He's the athletic director. Go hire a coach. Okay. Well, then that story develops yesterday when we get the word that Brian Kelly's attorneys had said, hey, LSU, by 5 o'clock, you need to let us know that you're going to be paying this buyout in full, or that you are agreeable to that. And that is when, according to this lawsuit that Brian Kelly has filed against LSU, that LSU informed Brian Kelly that, hey, we're going to pursue firing you with cause. And that's when Brian Kelly's team went, wait a second. In our contract, it says you have 7 days from termination to suggest you're going to be firing Brian Kelly with cause. It's been way more than 7 days. And LSU says, no. We did not fire you back on October 26th. Scott Woodward did that. He can't do that. And you listening to me right now might be going, wait a second, he's the athletic director. Of course he can hire and fire coaches, which is in his course and scope of work. Hiring and firing coaches is in his course and scope of work. However, this is LSU's contention in this matter. If there is a coach on campus who makes more than $250,000 annually, that hiring and firing must be approved by the Board of Supervisors. Scott Woodward in that Sunday meeting on the 26th of October, the day after LSU lost to Texas A&M, did not have the Board of Supervisors' approval to make that firing. That is LSU's contention. So while Scott Woodward may have said, yeah, your time here is done, and Brian Kelly may have cleaned out his office, LSU's saying, well, Scott Woodward didn't have that authority. He acted independently, and we have not fired you formally. So now we're going to pursue cause. This is the part that irritates me personally, and it's why I could never, ever, ever be an attorney. One, probably not bright enough. I'd spend more time breaking down weekend rotations for Mississippi State than I do actual things that matter. Fully aware of that. But I get irritated at stuff like this because, in my opinion, I want to be very clear, I'm giving my opinion here. Attorneys are oftentimes paid to tell half the truth, to paint things only one way. And I can't do that. It's not in my personality. I'm a communicator. I like to talk. I like to lay cards on the table. Attorneys are shoving cards in lockers and making sure the only cards that are up here visible are the ones that they want to see, and it drives me insane. I don't like dealing with it. This is a me problem, not a you problem. It's a me problem. I just don't like it. But that's the point here. Brian Kelly's attorneys are saying, hey, you fired him, said it wasn't for cause. We're open to settlements. Don't like the offers you've made. And in the lawsuit, LSU offered $25 million lump sum, then came back hours later and offered $30 million in two payments. Brian Kelly said no to those two. We have learned that Brian Kelly's camp countered with $43 million, and LSU said no. So that's the negotiation. And there are plenty of you, and I said yesterday, LSU just needs to pay the guy his money. But we did lay out the reasons why an upfront lump sum would be beneficial in some cases. If there's no mitigation with future earnings, if you feel like if I get a lump sum of X amount and I invest that properly, I'll beat the $54 million by the time 2031 rolls around. Like, there are reasons why you would take a lump sum instead of $800,000 a month moving forward. It's just like the lottery, right? But Brian Kelly has balked at what LSU has offered, and LSU has balked at what Kelly's camp countered with. And now we're into semantics about whether or not Brian Kelly actually got fired 2 weeks ago. And that's for the attorneys to figure out. I will tell you this. This is the point that I'm making with this. I don't know if LSU's argument that Scott Woodward couldn't make that firing holds any water in a court of law. I have no idea. I don't know if LSU has cause to fire Brian Kelly. The clause in his contract, which I have read through, which is in the ESPN story, you can search the contract on the internet now. The clause in the contract is very vague. There are things about morals and the standard of LSU, and I'm not going to play with the rumor mill that everybody's playing with in Baton Rouge. I've heard it all. I know what people are saying. I have no idea if any of that holds up. I don't know. So I don't know if they have ground to stand on with Woodward. I don't know if they have cause. I don't know if Brian Kelly will settle. I don't know if Scott Woodward had the $54 million raised on that Sunday. I don't know if they have $54 million set aside right now. I don't know. I don't know if this process has rubbed people the wrong way and they did pledge the money because they did believe in Scott Woodward, but now that Scott Woodward's been fired, they now have backed that money out. Like, I don't know all that stuff. I don't have a firsthand accounting of that. There are too many people moving around. It's now a pending legal situation. You're not going to get people to talk about it. I don't know about any of that. What I know is that this, from the outside, looks atrocious. It looks awful that LSU had an athletic director that was making decisions that now the Board of Supervisors is saying he didn't have the authority to make. It looks awful, in my opinion, that the governor is lambasting an athletic director in a press conference about snaps. It looks awful that the president was put into place and then basically backtracked on the fact that Verge Osbury was the athletic director and then had to come and issue a statement on the other side. It looks awful that now LSU is attempting to use some semantics and may not be paying the full buy. All of this looks awful. Again, I don't know how any of it is going to play out. I don't have all the evidence. I don't have all the information. I'm not an attorney. I can't predict the future and what's going to happen with all this. But I know that LSU is now trying to hire a football coach, and this looks terrible. I know that. Now, Verge Osbury certainly has more information than I do. Certainly has more information than I do. And his job is to go out there and communicate the situation to LSU. He's the athletic director. The president is in place. I have no reason to believe that LSU is going to go out there and try to offer a 4-year, $11 million contract to a big-name head coach. Like, Virgil Osbury is going to go out there and try to find a head coach. And perhaps the ending of this story is that everything works out just fine. And the court deals with Brian Kelly, and maybe he wins and maybe he loses. And that's money that is not mine. So what's the difference? I just care about who the next coach is. And all of it may work out just fine. But that's in the future. All I can do is sit here in the present and go, this is, on every level, a PR nightmare for LSU. It spans from the governor at the top of the state all the way down through the administrators of LSU. And I'm not even here to assign blame for things that have definitely been done wrong. That's not even why I'm here. I'm here to tell you it looks awful. The optics stink. And there had to be a way to do this more effectively and more efficiently with a lot of people involved. There just had to be. And this is the way that it's playing out. And it's going to play out, I believe, messily in a court of law. Maybe they reach a settlement in the next 48 hours. I don't know what LSU has. I don't know what Brian Kelly's team knows. That morality clause is real vague. But dealing with this is just, it's a black eye on the state and the university right now. I don't know how you could phrase it any other way. Now, if I'm going to use that analogy, black eyes heal. And this one very well may. And I've talked to enough people who feel one way or another. There are plenty of people that are in a camp going, hey, LSU was dysfunctional. This athletic director is handing out money like it's candy. And that needed to go. You got to clean up. You got to clean house. And you got to break some eggs to make an omelet here. And the LSU will come out of this fine. I've heard a lot of people say that. Heard a lot of people say the governor's got his hands in all this stuff. The administration is a mess. They don't know what they're doing on the board of supervisors. Coaches are not going to go coach for this guy. I've heard that side of it too. I'm not here to take one of those sides. I don't know the answer. I'm just here to observe from the outside, to look at what people all over the country are saying about LSU. And if every single person that you look at, from college football fan to media personality to, news journalists to sports journalists to whoever, everybody is looking at this in the same way going, not great, Louisiana. Why would it stand to reason that football coaches feel significantly differently? I don't know that it would. So we'll see what Virgil Osbury is able to do. And ultimately, we're probably not going to know the inner workings of what happens in the coaching search. But this has been a mess. And I feel like there was a more tactful way to go about this on so many levels. And we've just blown right by that. I don't know what the result's going to be, but it's a bad look, y'all. It is a bad, bad look. All right, that's our opening drive. It's brought to you by Genesis of Baton Rouge. We'll step aside. Let's talk a little LSU in Arkansas. Should we do that? We'll do it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners, licensed realtor in Louisiana and Mississippi. Daryl's life's work makes him such a great resource for those that are buying and selling homes in the Baton Rouge area. He's from here. He knows the areas. He knows where to live, where to look. He also spent 20 years in building. He knows what you should be looking for in terms of the home that's going to be your next. So if you want a realtor who's got a unique skill set of understanding the layout and the lay of the land here in the Baton Rouge area, but also knows what you're looking for from a construction perspective, Daryl May is that resource for you. Looking for a spot outside the city limits, outside the hustle bustle? Daryl is a St. Francisville resident now, born and raised in Baton Rouge, Catholic high grad, but now up in St. Francisville. He can help you with that type of a move as well. Such a great resource, such a great partner to the show here, and we appreciate him for bringing you our Tuesday shows each and every week. It's Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
I'm gonna move on to football. It's my desire to do so in this moment. I will say that if you are interested in this legal proceeding with Brian Kelly, with LSU, with the state of Louisiana, Board of Supervisors, all that, Matt and I worked on a story this morning, really all morning for LouisianaSports.net. It is up right now. It has the clauses of the contract that at LSU suggest that Scott Woodward was essentially in violation of. That's probably a harsh way to say it. Right? That Scott Woodward didn't have the authority to make that decision based on the Board of Supervisors bylaws. It also has some information as to who would be on the hook for the $54 million should Brian Kelly win that judgment. So all that's there at LouisianaSports.net. I highly recommend y'all go to check it out. It is free. If you've clicked on some other links for information on this situation and you've gotten the paywall or you've gotten the pop-ups, and none of that going to happen at LouisianaSports.net. It's right there on the front page. You can go check it out. Matt and I worked on that all morning, so you can go check it out. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't like dealing with it. I find it to be frustrating to deal in legalese as much as you have to read this stuff and to interpret this stuff. And so I'm going to leave it right there. And we'll move on to LSU and Arkansas. I also wrote a piece for LouisianaSports.net today about the battle for the boot in this rivalry. There are so many people that have so many different feelings about LSU and Arkansas's rivalry. I would submit that it does mean more to Arkansas than it does to LSU. I think LSU fans find an inferiority complex with Arkansas. Maybe I should say LSU fans feel superior to Arkansas based on LSU's winning track record and kind of look down their nose at the fact that would be a game that LSU is supposed to care about as much as the game against Alabama or as against Florida or against Auburn or even the way the Texas A&M has trended. It doesn't have the history that LSU and Ole Miss do. But it has been an impactful game, probably because of where it rested on the schedule. It was at the end of the schedule for so long. I really, really don't care about the $10,000 hunk of gold called the Golden Boot. Like, that's not going to get me all fired up to go to work in the morning. But you got to admit that there have been some moments between LSU and Arkansas over the years. I was actually I was 14 years old, a freshman in high school, when the Miracle on Markham happened, and my buddy Scott invited me and another friend to go up to Little Rock where he had family, and it was the first time I'd ever been to an LSU road game. And we road tripped up to Little Rock, and I remember thinking it was really weird that we parked on a golf course there in Little Rock. We went into War Memorial Stadium, and LSU really controlled the game, the whole game. And LSU, Matt Jones was the quarterback at Arkansas, and he hadn't done anything the entire day. And LSU's sitting there with a 6-point lead, under a minute to go. Arkansas has no timeouts, and they're pinned inside their own 20. And then, bam, Matt Jones hits a long pass down across midfield, and then with like 19 seconds left, he hits to Corey Birmingham. And I was a kid at the time. I was short, and I was in the end zone at War Memorial, and the pass was thrown down and to my left, and everyone stood up to try to see, and like I couldn't see. And so all of my this is still burned in my brain. All I saw was all of War Memorial Stadium stand up in red and roar. And at that point, like, I never saw the catch. It was down to my left. There's no Jumbotron at War Memorial at that point. So it was just a feeling of emptiness as the whole place roared. But I forgot, it had been so long, that tied the game. And Arkansas got a unsportsmanlike for excessive celebration, which moved the extra point back to like a 40-yard field goal, which they made to win the game with 20 seconds left. But I had forgotten about that, the miracle on Markham. Of course, another devastating memory for LSU fans was the triple overtime game in 2007 with the We Got That Wood with McFadden. I went back and looked at the box score from that game. And, I mean, you believe it, but Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, and Peyton Hillis in that game ran for 380 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, triple overtime, more time, but 380 and 5 touchdowns. Our off-the-bench crew, the morning show, Flynn and Hester combined for 330 yards between the two of them, 4 touchdowns in that game. But that was an incredible game. And I don't know, that one because of the way things went the next week and the wildness in Atlanta and then the national championship, the emotions of that game get swept away for most LSU fans. But I remember sitting in that stadium as a student. I was a sophomore at LSU. I'd been to every game, and I would never, ever, ever, ever suggest that I was more distraught than Matt Flynn and Jacob Hester, who were on the team. But just speaking for myself as a student at the time who had been to every game, who was a sophomore, like, I thought that the chance to win a national championship was lost that day for me as a student, which that's a pretty cool thing that I've got in my back pocket. I'd rather be on the team like Flynn and Hester. I'm not any good at football, so they don't want me on the team. But like to win a national championship while you're a student at LSU, that's a pretty cool thing, especially considering that game was in New Orleans. And you felt like all year, because LSU was preseason number 1 and they throttled Virginia Tech, and like you felt like they had a real chance to win the national championship, and it was right there in front of them. And then to have it taken away by little old Arkansas in Tiger Stadium on that Friday, like I remember sitting in the student section after that game was over, like my head in my hands, like I can't believe that's over. And then it wasn't, because LSU came back and got it done. I also have very, very vivid memories of the 2011 game. If I ran the numbers on this morning, it's wild. LSU, Alabama, and Arkansas that year in 2011 played 18 SEC games independent of one another. Like, obviously, they all played each other. They were all SEC West teams, so LSU played Bama and Arkansas. Arkansas played Bama and LSU. Bama played Arkansas and LSU. But if you take those games out and you just go with the SEC games that Arkansas, Bama, and LSU played that weren't against each other, they outscored their opponents. It was 18-0 is what they were, 18-0. LSU was undefeated. Bama lost once. Arkansas lost twice. But 18-0, they outscored their opponents by 486 points. That's 27 points per game. Only 2 of the 16 games that Alabama, LSU, and Arkansas played independent of each other were decided by single digits. 2 of 16. And 13 of the 16 were decided by 20-plus. 13 of 16 were 20-plus points. Look at what you watch every Saturday in the SEC this year. You rarely see teams getting boat raced by 20. Rarely. LSU and Arkansas and Bama were doing it every single week to these teams. And Arkansas came to Tiger Stadium ranked 3rd in the country to face number 1 LSU, unbeaten. And on the first play of the second quarter, Tyler Wilson touchdown down to the south end zone. I remember it very well. And then LSU got the ball back, and Michael Ford got the ball popped out of his arm, and Arkansas guy ran it in for a touchdown to go up 14-0 on that incredible 2011 LSU team. And from that 14-0 deficit, LSU from that point outscored Arkansas 41-3. The number 3 team in the nation, LSU outscored them 41-3 to finish 12-0 for the first time in school history. So I have very vivid memories of that game as well. Just crazy to see when that team flipped a switch, which usually was generated by the special teams or the offense, whether it was Tyron in that game, Tyron against Oregon, Tyron against Georgia, Mo Claiborne against West Virginia with the kickoff return for a touchdown. Like, generally the defense and special teams made a play, and it just sparked the offense to go nuts. And that was certainly one of those days for LSU back in 2011. And then another memory that I've got, just because of where I was standing at the time, I was writing for Bayou Bengals Insider in 2013. Mettenberger tears his ACL. It's the 3,000-yard team with Mettenberger, Landry, Beckham. And so Odell goes out with injury. Mettenberger tears his ACL. You got to go to Anthony Jennings in this game against Arkansas, right? And you feel like it's pretty bleak. LSU's down by 3, and they get the ball back at their own 1-yard line in the south end zone. The 1-yard line is where LSU started from. And you had, that's 3:04 to play. I looked it up. 3:04 to play at the 1-yard line with Anthony Jennings, no Odell, and Mettenberger hurt. And they get a completion out to Deshaun Smith, and they get out close to midfield. And you got 1:04 left, called timeout, came out of the huddle, and then Anthony Jennings dropped back. And this is where I was standing. He throws deep down the left sideline. And when he throws that ball, I'm in the media, and we would go down for the last 5 minutes of every game on the field so that we could have press box access, so you didn't want to try to fight everyone that was leaving the stadium to get down to field level to go in for the post-game press conference, so we went early. And he threw it, and it looked like it was coming right to me. Like, I was standing on the sideline, and the flight of the ball is just coming right at me. And so I just peek down to my right, and Traven Durrell is just running by himself. There's just no one there. And I was like, oh, my God. And he caught it, I would submit, 9 yards from me and walked into the end zone. There's a great picture. I don't even know where it is on the internet. It was on Twitter at one point of me and Shea Dixon standing right there as the ball is flying right in front, and Durrell catches it right in front of both of us. It's a great picture. But that's a core memory of mine just because I was on the field when it happened. The two moments I vividly recall being on the field for in my time covering LSU was it's three, actually. Three moments. In 2011, on the field for Tuscaloosa, overtime, Alamo field goal. Michael Ford stepped out right in front of me. Then I had this one with Durrell in 13, and also in 2012, I was on the field when TJ Yeldon caught the screen pass right there where Durrell was too, and that's where we always stood, and that was right in front of me as well. That one was not as happy. But this rivalry has been very interesting, I think. LSU has controlled it for the most part. The Tigers overall lead this series 45 wins to 23 losses. There have been 2 ties. But there was a time there from 06 to 15 where the two programs split 5-5 in 10 games. Arkansas has really struggled against LSU of late. LSU's won 8 of 9 in this series. The only exception was 2021 after Ed Ogeron had been fired. Arkansas came to Tiger Stadium and won in overtime. But beyond that, LSU's controlled it in 8 of the last 9 and certainly played well up in Fayetteville. May have been their best game last year, quite honestly, up in Fayetteville. We'll see how that moves forward this week. But I just wanted a little palate cleanser, a little trip down memory lane, a little LSU Arkansas to kind of get away from the legal proceedings that were. We'll continue our football discussion. Glen West will be with us when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Tub to shower conversions, something David and his team do all the time. There may be a number of reasons why you want to do a tub to shower conversion. Maybe you've got one of those big 90s style jacuzzis that doesn't function anymore. Maybe your bathtub's a little bit older, getting rusted, dingy, doesn't function anymore. Don't just call the guy down the street who's a handyman, give him some cash, and see if he can't rig up your bathtub. That's not a great idea. Instead, go to the company that's been doing this for 30 years. Go to the company that's licensed, bonded, insured. Go to the company that has a master plumber on staff and get that tub taken out. Maybe you don't use it. Maybe it's perfectly functional. You just don't use it. It's not like the Palmer family where we've got chaos in the bathtub every day at 6:30. Put a shower in. Tub to shower conversion with David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. That free consultation online at onebathandclosets.com. Onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Tuesday show is brought to you by Daryl May of Remax Partners, buying or selling a home in the Baton Rouge area. Contact my guy, Daryl May. Also can help you with some property in Mississippi if that's something you're looking for. Hunting season's upon us. Daryl May can help you with that as well. Daryl May of Remax Partners, licensed realtor in Louisiana and Mississippi. Let's go out to the jimsfirearms.net hotline. Glen West, senior writer, Go 24/7 with us. Glen, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right, Hunt. How about yourself?
I'm reading a lot of contracts. I'm reading a lot of lawsuits. I don't want to do that ever, and I'm doing a lot of that. So I'm not super awesome. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I spent a good portion of the morning trying to sort out the latest of this saga, but I've also tried to realize that we've got football to play this weekend, and there's some attention that needs to be put on that as well.
Well, let's do that here because I've done enough on the lawsuit in the first segment of the show today. So your thoughts on the defense on Saturday evening in Tuscaloosa?
I thought they held up well. I mean, I think going into the game, I thought this was maybe a little bit of a better matchup for LSU, strictly because of the previous games that they had played against Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. You've had those mobile quarterbacks, and that's really been the Achilles heel of that defense for a couple of years now under Blake Baker. And for all the things that Ty Simpson is as a passer, you really didn't see him run a whole lot last weekend against the Tigers. And I think once they were able to bottle that up, they were able to consistently get off the field. They forced, a couple turnovers. They did a really nice job of just bending but not breaking for the most part. And honestly, the one part that I thought that LSU would maybe have a little bit more of a advantage, and where I think they've struggled the most the last couple of weeks has been in the secondary. They gave up so many of those intermediate plays over the middle of the field, but I thought they did a really nice job of shutting the run game down and really having the bounce back performance that you needed to just keep the offense in the game for as long as they could. And unfortunately, the offense just wasn't able to answer the bell. And first time all season they haven't scored a touchdown. I think that's been something that was coming if you watched this offense perform the last 7-8 games. But I was pleased with the defense overall. I thought they had a nice bounce back performance. Let's
stick with the defense. We'll get to the offense here shortly. Why do you think they have such issues with the mobile quarterback?
Yeah, I think part of their whole structure is to get pressure in the backfield as much as possible. And when you're not filling your rush lane gaps in the right way, it just makes it so much easier for those slippery quarterbacks to find the lane and find the opportunity to go get some extra yards. And I think that's really what happened in those two games against Vanderbilt. Their run gap integrity was just not good. Guys were, I think, getting into the backfield. I mean, there were so many opportunities in that Vanderbilt game. I'm thinking just right off the top of my head where, guys like Jack Pyburn or Harold Perkins were in position to make a play, and those guys just at the last second were able to, dart away from them or make a quick move and get out of their reach and continue and extend plays in that way. And so I just think it's a fundamental thing that where they've really struggled to stop those running quarterbacks, because if you've got to be able to be precise on your rush lanes and getting those pressures on quarterbacks, and they haven't been able to do that as consistently as maybe you would have hoped to here in year 2 under Baker with some of those mobile quarterbacks. But they have talent. I think they have the kind of pass rushers that can create that havoc, but they just got to be able to finish those plays a little bit more consistently, because you're going to face another one of those guys this week in Taylor Green. Yeah, I was going to say, according to my sources, the quarterback at Arkansas runs a little bit. Do you expect to see it look different this week, or you expect, hey, they'll probably just kind of get gashed again because that's what happens when they play a mobile quarterback? Yeah, I mean, until you prove me wrong, I mean, like I expect Taylor Green to be able to get extensive plays and get some open lanes and take advantage of that aspect of LSU's defense. That's something that Arkansas is game planning for here. They have a top 10 offense in so many different ways and so many ways that they can beat you. But it all starts with Taylor Green, and he has shown a really improved ability to be able to escape the pocket and make guys miss and continue drives. I mean, I believe I was looking at the stats. They're top 10 in most categories, but specifically third down conversions. I think they're right at 52% as an offense, which is top 10 in the country. Yeah. That's when LSU has struggled defensively this year with those mobile quarterbacks. It's usually come on those third down plays. And so it's going to be really imperative for those guys to have a game plan for that. I would be surprised if Whit Weeks is a part of that game plan. But certainly you're going to need a lot of these guys to step up and execute their game plan much better against Green on Saturday.
Let's say LSU plays 65 snaps on Saturday. How many of those does Garrett Nussmeier take?
I'm going to go 40.
That's a big split. I mean, that's a lot of Van Buren. You think you're going to see a lot of Van Buren on Saturday?
I do. I think they're going to go to Van Buren quite a bit. I think once you've opened that Pandora's box and just, the way that Frank Wilson has kind of talked about it this weekend, or this week, I should say, they're going to give Van Buren a legit shot. And I think it's the right move at this point in the season. I think you've got to give the guy who maybe could potentially be sticking around beyond this year some more opportunities, some more reps. I will say, like, if LSU is going to have success as an offense, it has to come this week, because Arkansas's defense has not held an opponent under 30 points since September 13th, the second week of the season. And so they're going to give up some plays. You're going to have opportunities as an offense to move the ball. I firmly believe both of these quarterbacks can have success in this game, but I do think that they're going to make this much more of a 2-quarterback system here over the final 3 games of the year.
What does that mean for Garrett Nussmeier? Like, how do you interpret that for Nussmeier?
It's just so rough, man, because, Garrett's the guy that you want to be able to root for, because he went through his first 3-4 years in the program the right way and really the way that you want to script it up. But I just think these last couple of games, the explosiveness has really really diminished in this offense. You can tell it's getting to him a little bit, I think, mentally. I mean, he just does not look like a very confident quarterback right now, and you see all these check down throws that he's making, and I think there's just a lot that's going into this right now from a passing game perspective for him, and I just think it's in his best interest to go out there and try to put on some good film for whatever games and whatever snaps he has left as a Tiger, but it's just really unfortunate. This has been a pretty nightmarish season for him and for this offense, and one that I think even his biggest naysayers coming into the year probably couldn't have predicted. But it's the way that it's turned out, and I expect LSU to be doing whatever it can to win the game, and I do think that Van Buren's going to be a big part of that this weekend.
What do they do on the offensive line, specifically at right tackle?
I would still make some moves. I mean, I'm actually writing about this right now as we speak, but I would certainly give Ori Williams another shot at right tackle. I mean, I believe the PFF grades had him as a pretty serviceable pass blocker in that game in that second half against Alabama. Didn't do so hot in the run, but he's somebody that, this Arkansas defense has exactly one player on the defense that I think can hurt you, and he's an edge rusher. And so I think LSU is going to want to get the best pass blockers out there for this game, and I would certainly expect Ori Williams to play a little bit more at right tackle. I would expect Karius Kern to continue to play at left tackle, and we'll see what happens there in the middle. But I do expect some more change to be coming on the offensive line this weekend as well.
See anything last night from the basketball team that impressed you or that you thought was a question mark?
Nothing really stood out. I mean, I was very impressed, when shots weren't falling there in the first half, and, UNO kind of made it a little bit of a game there and cut it down to 6. I was very impressed with the poise that LSU showed when Dedon Thomas was not on the floor. He picked up a couple fouls and missed the last 6-7 minutes of the game of the first half, and then he had a little bit of a tweaked knee-to-knee bump with a player in the second half and missed 7 or 8 minutes of game time there as well. And LSU extended the lead when he went out the first time, and then they built on it even more when he went out in the second half as well. And I think that's going to be really important for this team because Dedon Thomas is going to be such a ball-dominant, ball-heavy playmaker for LSU when he's on the floor. They're going to need to find ways when he's off the floor to continue to make plays happen and things of that nature. So I thought that was a really positive sign for LSU that they, even though it was just for one game, that they could prove that they can make shots and have some decent offensive performance there when Thomas is off the floor.
He's Glen West, senior writer at Go, 24/7 basketball coverage, football coverage, legal coverage, baseball coverage, recruiting. They got you covered over there at Go 24/7. Thanks, Glen.
All right, thanks, Hunt.
Speaking of that basketball game, I watched it last night. Had a story up at LouisianaSports.net. I'll give you some of my thoughts on it. We'll talk some Saints and LSU Arkansas in hour number 2. Come back with us. The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is that website. It's a great place to hang out, socialize, have some fun with the crew. They've got great private bays there at Swing Easy Golf Club that have comfortable seating, televisions, got the golf simulator there. You want to hit some balls on the range with your friends? Cool. You want to play around a golf? You can do that even when it's cold, raining, dark outside. You don't have to wait 5 hours in the heat to play golf like most of the year here. You just go to Swing Easy Golf Club and play 18 holes at Pebble Beach in an hour and 15 minutes. Play with 5 friends, play with 3 friends. Hang out, watch football all day Saturday. Watch football on Sunday. You can do it all at Swing Easy Golf Club. It's on Segan at Perkins. Online at SwingEasyGCBR.com. That's Swing Easy Golf Club, SwingEasyGCBR.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here. We'll talk to Colin Jeter, LSU Alumni Association, and former Tiger tight end on the other side of SportsCenter. But first, LSU beats UNO last night, 93-51 in the PMAC. Tigers just way too big and physical for UNO. Privateer just had no answer for LSU's defense and rebounding. LSU won the battle on the glass 56-36, so 20 rebound advantage there. You look at UNO in the second half, and they just had no chance offensively. Shot 27% from the floor, just 3 of 15 from 3. It wasn't turnovers that gave UNO trouble, but they just couldn't get clean looks at the basket. LSU was just able to smother them defensively. So that's not a huge feather in LSU's cap. UNO is not very good, and LSU is just bigger and stronger and faster than UNO. But, some good things statistically from LSU. Michael Nwoku, who is the biggest and strongest player on LSU's team, was way too much on the block for UNO. Had 22 points. That's a career high for him. Grabbed 5 rebounds. I love the versatility that you saw from Marquel Sutton, who was the Summit League Player of the Year at Omaha last year. He comes in, and he's kind of playing the 3 for LSU. 15 points, including 4 of 8 from 3. And 15 rebounds in the game, had 11 defensive rebounds for LSU in 32 minutes of action. So I really liked that versatility from Sutton. He can go out there and knock down a shot if you get him a good look. He can also get down there on the glass and get you some rebounds. So that was very encouraging. Jalen Reed shot a high percentage, 6 of 10 from the floor. He scored 15 points. That was good. LSU absolutely dominated paint points in this game, which you would expect with a much bigger, more physical team. 42-28. That was a 14-point advantage in the paint. And then the assist-to-turnover ratio was great for LSU in this game, and that is something that I wanted to look at because LSU turned the ball over 15 times in their opener against Tarleton State. You got to clean that up, and LSU in this game only had 7 turnovers to go along with 21 assists on 31 makes. That's quality work, and especially from your 2-point guards, De'Don Thomas and Jalen Reese. Those two combine for 12 assists and just 1 turnover. Another 8-assist game from De'Don Thomas. That's 16 assists in 2 games. He's really found a great rhythm working off the high pick and roll, throwing the ball in the lobs to Mike Nwoku for alley-oops that were very, very effective, and just creating for his team. I really liked what Thomas did. I'm okay with the fact that Thomas was 2 for 7 from the floor, and Jalen Reese was 0 of 5 from the floor. But if you get those guys 12 assists, 1 turnover, that's quality work from your point guard position for sure. Ron Zipper is not a factor on this team, and that's a little surprising to me. He has just played in the last 2 minutes of the last 2 games. I kind of thought when he came over that he would be a starter on this team, and it's obvious that he's like 12th on the depth chart right now. And so it's just one of those things in a bygone era when you had a program that was bringing guys in, developing guys, and moving them through the program from freshman through senior year. You could kind of tell every August like what the roles were going to be for everybody. When you bring in 10 new dudes, and then some of them are from Omaha, and some of them are from Mississippi State, and some of them are from Israel, and some of them are from community college, and some of them are freshmen, like, you can't know as a fan who's not at practice and hadn't played any games and not at scrimmages. You can't just look at the screen on the internet and look at the roster and go, oh, well, that's got to be the starter there and he's going to be the starter. Like, you can guess, but I would have thought Ron Zipper was probably the starting 2 guard on this team. He may not play at all. Like, that's what it looks like right now. And Max McKinnon, who is the starting 2 guard on this team, had a huge game. In the first game LSU played, was 6 of 7, knocked down a couple of early threes, was LSU's leading scorer in the game. He played 19 minutes last night and scored 2 points, both from the free throw line. Like, he missed all 5 of his field goals, 2 of them were from 3, but LSU picked up that slack. Again, for the 413th time here, like, we're not going to learn anything positive about LSU between now and Christmas. Like, everything they do from now to Christmas on the positive side has to be taken with a grain of salt because we watched them last year play well enough in the non-conference to beat Florida State and beat Kansas State and not stub their toe against the little guys. And you lost a couple of games. You couldn't beat Pitt and like whatever. But it was a fine non-conference. And then you got in the SEC and you were completely outclassed. Completely outclassed. So hopefully the SEC takes a small step back and then LSU takes a step forward. But I'm not going to gather that they've taken a step forward because they beat UNO 93-58. Like, that's not the step forward I'm looking for. It could be, but I'm not going to take it for anything more than just beating a bad team. And that's the same thing with Tarleton State. It'll be the same thing with Florida International. I mean, it's a bad non-conference schedule early on. And so every time they go out there and play like this, I will tell you, like, I like that. I don't care because it's against a bad team. What happens and works against UNO doesn't work against Ole Miss necessarily. What works against Tarleton State is not your lunch ticket against Kentucky. You got to continue to get better. You got to stay healthy. And there are some things each and every game that I'll look at. In this one, I like to assist a turnover. I like the fact that Thomas was distributing, and I thought that you saw some good versatility from Marquell Sutton. But I'm not here to throw a party when you beat a second team in a row by 30 points that shouldn't be on the same floor with you. So that's where I am. Not to be like dismissive, but it's just where we are. The SEC is a really good basketball league, and these teams LSU are playing, not good. So LSU wins 93-58. Back in action, Florida International Thursday at the PMAC at 7 o'clock. We'll talk about that one on Thursday's show. That's it for hour number one. Open the show with the new legal proceedings with Brian Kelly and LSU. Laid out kind of what we know, what I don't know, how I feel about what LSU looks like in this situation. That's the top of the show. You can find it at Hunt on LSU. Also talked a little about the series for the Golden Boot, LSU and Arkansas, in our discussion with Glen West about the Tigers offensively and defensively. All that, Hunt on LSU. We'll have some Saints discussion coming up in 35 minutes with Sharif Ishak of WDSU. You can find all of our Saints content at Hunt on Saints. Certainly LouisianaSports.net has got all of that covered, including a new story from me and Matt on this Brian Kelly lawsuit. We will step aside for national headlines at SportsCenter. When we come back, Colin Jeter from the LSU Alumni Association on this Tuesday show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carver and his team are just first class. I've spent 7 years in insurance. I know that there are good agencies. I know that there are not so good agencies. I can promise you the Highland Insurance Group is awesome. They have an incredibly experienced team that has amazing technical knowledge. And that's not the most interesting thing for everybody, but if you're a business owner, you want your broker to speak the language of insurance and to make sure that your company is taken care of. The Highland Insurance Group will do that. They will audit your policy for free. It doesn't cost you anything. They will tell you what they find. If there are significant issues that need to be rectified immediately, they will take that and do it. If they think everything was on the up and up, leave you right there. But it doesn't cost you anything to let them look. And they have the expertise to know whether or not your program is in the right place. So if you're a business owner, CFO, risk manager, looking for a second set of eyes on your insurance program, Highland Insurance Group. Find them online, HighlandIG.com.